Hello everyone, so today I'm recording an in-depth tour of my work iPad, showing you some of my favorite apps. This might be a bit of a longer video, but I'll try to keep it as concise as possible. So I do use this iPad for both work and personal needs, which is why you might see my Netflix down here in the bottom corner. But this page is the main page that I use for work, and this third page contains all the pediatric apps I downloaded from when I was a SLPA. I've kept them here just in case, but I hardly ever use these anymore. So this is really the main page here. So getting into our first folder here, this is my dysphagia folder. The first app is Dysphagia by TACTUS Therapy, and it contains a whole list of assessment measures depending on what swallow physiology you'd like to check. So here's lip closure, it'll give you assessment task, it'll give you the clinical relevance of why that function is important. And then we also have a whole library of treatment techniques. So it contains like a whole list of swallow treatment techniques from like oral motor exercises, e-stim, swallowing maneuvers. It really has it all. The next app we have is the Oral Motor Exercises app by Graphica. This is really a pandemic essential. It contains a whole library of different oral motor exercises. If you're trying to help a patient complete oral motor exercises or conduct an oral motor exam or cranial nerve exam, then this is so helpful. With the mask, it makes it harder for us to cue patients, and if your patient has hearing difficulties, language differences, or maybe has a cognitive issue where they have a hard time following verbal instructions, then this app is perfect. So I'll give you a quick example of what it's like.
Stick out tongue and sweep your tongue to the right and hold for 3 seconds. Do the same on the left side. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Relax.
So next we have the Dysphagia app by Northern Speech Services, and this app is really great for patient education. It shows all the different phases of a swallow. So I'll full screen it here and I'll show you. And what's great about this is that you can also slow it down. And while this is playing, you can point out all the different structures like the lips, the teeth, the hard palate, the velum, the tongue. And it shows everything that needs to happen and the timing of what needs to happen in order for you to swallow properly. If your patient has come back with a video fluoroscopic study and you know exactly the physiological impairments that are happening that are inhibiting their swallow, you can find an example of it down here too, impairment animations. So for example, if they're having trouble with lip closure, you can show them exactly what's happening. Slow it down a little. You can see some of the bolus escapes from the lip and how that can affect the swallow as well. Really great app for patient education. They also have, in terms of a normal swallow, they also have an AP view as well, which is helpful too. Yep. So that's my dysphagia folder. Next is my TACTUS therapy apps, more of the language and cognitive ones. So the Advanced Language Lite and the Conversation Lite are still apps that I'm exploring. I have used the language and the visual attention apps. So the language app is really great. It comes with 4-in-1. I think that's literally the name of it, 4-in-1. So we have comprehension, we have naming, we have writing and reading. This is really the ultimate aphasia app. So the one I find myself using the most is the naming therapy app. And it's really great because like all the other TACTUS therapy apps, you have cues built in to the task. You can choose and manipulate how many you're going to do, how many syllables the stimuli are going to be, the different categories, and then you can even add your own stimuli so that it's relevant and functional for the patient too. So that's fantastic. So I'll give you a quick demo. So right here it's pointing to the knee, right? So you can give like little cues if your patient's not getting it.
The joint connecting the upper and lower leg. To propose, he got down on one.
So there's phrase completion. That's a phonemic cue, and then these visual ones are if they're stronger in reading. So you can go through them, get a few wrong, get a few right. Then it shows you the percentage at the end. It shows you which which cues that you used. Then at the end, you can email your results to yourself, or you could view a report. And this is my favorite part of TACTUS apps. It does your documentation for you, so that's great. I usually screenshot this and I'll save this for later when I'm actually documenting. Sometimes I can't always do point of service, so there's that. But yeah. And then another good TACTUS app that I really love using is the Visual Attention app. This is for patients with hemispatial neglect. So just like the other apps, you can customize how much of a cue you're giving. You can modulate the difficulty of the task. Depending on the side of their neglect, you can also put a signal location. So I'll show you what that looks like. So let's say the neglect is on the left side for this patient. Let's just do one trial instead of 10. We'll look for just one target at a time. And then we'll do a field of 24. Keep it nice and easy. We also have the levels here. So as you're going from 1 through 10, it gets harder. 10 is the hardest, 1 is the easiest. So for this one, you would have to find a target amongst a field of very similar looking letters. So for example, this. So we have our signal location on the left here. So that's just a big flashing red line so that you can tell your patient, hey, like as long as you can see the red line there, you know you're seeing everything that you need to on the page. So that's just kind of like a visual cue for them. They'll probably need frequent reminders to always find the red line and make sure that it's within their line of sight. So they'll go ahead, crossing these out. We're touching every T. I'll click a few wrong ones. Yep. So again, it gives you a percentage, it gives you a report, and it did everything for you. I love TACTUS therapy. Yeah, so that's a good one too. Next, we have my cognitive apps. So I'm not going to go through every single one. I'm just going to kind of overview. I believe all of these are free except for Lumosity. Lumosity has a few free games, but to unlock all the games that are available, I believe you need to pay like $12 a month to pay for a subscription. But I just tend to stick to the free games that are available every day. They change. So Lumosity and MindMate are both brain training games. MindMate is especially designed for patients with dementia, so the brain training games are a lot easier. Lumosity is definitely more for those patients with mild cognitive deficits. And then with word search, that's also good for selective attention, also good for patients with hemispatial neglect to make sure that they're seeing the whole network of letters and looking for the words within there. Flow Free is, I think I will show you this one because it's a little bit harder to explain, but they're basically puzzles. So you can pick a level that's pretty easy, but the name of the game is that you have to connect these dots that are the same color, but you cannot intersect each other. So you have to find a way to connect all the dots without crossing over one another. So this is good again for problem solving, hemispatial neglect, all that stuff. iSays is like a Simon Says kind of game where it'll show you a pattern and then you have to copy the pattern and then it'll add on one more at a time. Pretty straightforward. DDK is a pretty great one. I saw this posted on an SLP Facebook page, but basically what it is, you can measure a DDK with it, obviously. So you can set it to however long you're going to time them for, like 15 seconds. And then once they get going, you can count all those nice putakas, putaka, or pa-pa-pa, ta-ta-ta, whatever it is. And then you can also do it so that it starts timing you as soon as you start tapping. So this is good not only for DDK, but it's also great for those parts in the slums or the MOGA or aphasia assessments where it has you do generative naming tasks. So, for example, like name as many animals as you can in 1 minute. That's pretty great for this. Next is the Parkinson's app. So the first app we have here is the Speakup app. And the Speakup app is very good for just helping patients project when they're working on really getting enough vocal intensity to be intelligible. So we have 2 different levels. We have words and phrases and reading and conversation. Here is a camera, so you can't really see anything because I have tape over my camera, but it's good if they want to like be able to watch themselves. So here they have a bunch of different stimuli or phrases that they can say. So you can see as I talk, the volume meter is going up and down. So the goal is for them to be able to project loud enough to get within that target zone. So there's quite a few. Then they can watch it back. You can score how they did. And they also have, for this one, you would give them a stimulus to read from. Down here, I actually want to talk about these first, calm and white noise. So these apps provide a lot of background noise, so they can be used for Parkinson's, but they can also be used for patients with selective attention difficulties too, to create more of a distraction within the environment. We also have an app here called iBreathe, and that is an app that can help patients with diaphragmatic breathing. So if I click on intervals here, I can adjust how long that the app will cue them to breathe in for, how long to hold it, to exhale. There's also different presets that you could use as well. So here we'd click breathe.
Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold.
So that's the iBreathe app. Next we have the Metronome app. So the Metronome app can be really great for a number of reasons. With patients with Parkinson's, sometimes they freeze up and they have a hard time reinitiating tasks. So the Metronome kind of gives them that like prompt to like continue the task, to continue whatever it is they're doing. It can also help with projecting. If you give a patient a certain phrase or a word to say, and you have them split the word or the phrase into 1 syllable per beat of the metronome, it can also help them project louder and maintain a certain vocal intensity over a longer period of time. Blah 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 is another app that shows a face, and basically the face moves when it hears like verbal or auditory stimulation. It's kind of faulty though. It's kind of glitchy at some times, so I don't personally like to use it too much, but I have it on the days that it decides to work for me. AAC, we have the Tobii Dynavox Snap Lite, we have the TACTUS, the Alpha Topics, and Quick Assess. So I'm gonna actually start off with the Quick Assess here. So if you're anything like me, AAC, there's a lot to still explore and to know and to learn in terms of the world of AAC. I personally have always had a really hard time knowing when an AAC or what kind of AAC might be most suitable for a patient. I know what would probably be better in terms of like common sense and like functionality and all of that, but I never really understood how to go about learning all of that or to figuring that out. So this is a great place to start. So here we have an assessment. So there's a whole process to it, but basically what the evaluation will show you is the physical assessment. How accurate is the touch? Is their vision field appropriate for them to be able to select different things? Language, the language aspect of AAC. Are they able to repeat things, to name things, to participate in a conversation? And it also simulates like different kinds of devices as well, like a simple device versus a complex device, which means increasing the field of buttons that they can press, etc., etc. So that's a really great one. Next is the Tobii Dynavox Snap. So this is a demo version that I have. But basically, I really like this just because it comes already preloaded with a very extensive vocabulary. It's highly customizable. For the sake of this demo one, I did set it up with a few core words that the patient actually selected herself, which was a suction, a breathing treatment button, help, diaper change. So I'll give you a quick tutorial of how it works right now. So you would just instruct the patient to press a button.
Want breathing treatment.
And if they want to repeat themselves, you press the box, the white box again.
Want breathing treatment.
You can clear it. You can edit it with this gear in the corner. There's quick fires, core words. There's a keyboard. Lots of great stuff here. All wordless, so you can see there's quite an extensive amount of buttons that are available for the patient. So that's pretty great. TACTUS, this is more of an emergency one. It's by Passimure. It's for patients with trachs. So if they need to speak, they have some basic ones here. This one's a little more limited because, as you can see, there's not as many slots. You can customize the messages though. So here.
Yes. Move me. Doctor, I need suctioning.
So that's a good one. Alpha Topics, also a good emergency one. They have a letter board here. Topics, so this one doesn't have any buttons once you click the topic, but it's a good way for a patient to show what they're talking about or what they want to talk about. So for example, if they want to talk about
family,
so they can click on family and then they can go back to the letter board and start talking about something with their family using keywords. They also have a whiteboard here for patients to draw or write out things that they want to say too. Yep.
Yes. No.
So this is a basic one. You can even ask questions.
Huh?
or laugh. So that's a pretty good one too. Alright, and the last one we have is the Translate app, which is a lot more helpful than you would think. So for most scenarios, you will want an interpreter. It is always better to have an interpreter instead of using this app. Not a replacement for an interpreter, but it's good when you're in a pinch. So the feature that I really like to use is the conversation app, or the conversation part of it. So here we have English and Korean on the other side. This is just a demo. So when you click the microphone in the middle, it'll be listening for both. So when it's listening for both languages.
들을 때는 두 언어 모두를 듣습니다.
알았어요?
All right.
So there you have it. It's not 100% accurate too, and sometimes patients are not always as clear either, so again, this is only for emergencies. But yeah, those are pretty much the apps that I use on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. I hope you got some ideas on what apps might be helpful for you in the future too. That is pretty much it.